Surprise! How about that? Little production value for the show. Hello, everybody. Welcome to this week's Wednesday edition of the Steakhouse. The open sign, you just saw it. Steakhouse is open. And then welcome as we talk T-Bones baseball here on a Wednesday, the American Association Wednesday. Welcome to the Steakhouse. My name is Dan Vaughn, voice of the Kansas City T-Bones, and glad you're along today on a Wednesday. Hope you're doing well, and I hope you're staying well, and wherever you are. And we've got a good show, another solid show, shorter show this week. We won't go into the long, drawn out KBO, although we'll have a KBO report for you from Korea here in a few minutes. But we'll be joined off the top here in about 7 or 8. What time is it? I'm actually a couple minutes behind schedule. In a couple more minutes, we'll be joined by Tim Costello, voice of the Texas Airhogs, to join us off the top. And Tim is actually standing by. We're going to jump right to him in just a moment. And then the second half of the show, Roy Morales will join us as well, as Roy will come to us from Puerto Rico and catch up with the all-star of the T-Bones. Also, I'm moving Wednesday's wisdom to a little bit later in the show, but I do have some Wednesday's wisdom for you, as we've been really focusing really hardcore on this whole 1918 thing. But without further ado, let's welcome in the show. He is the voice of our good mates, our good mates in the division, our bunk mates. Here he is, Tim Costello. Tim, how you doing, bud? You've got the game face and the beard and the headset on. You're looking good, bud.
Hey, it's I got the whole broadcast set up here at home. I've been trying to do what I can to stay sane, but it's getting to the end of my limit here.
Yeah, it is. I think we're all in the same boat there, buddy. That was my first question. I mean, hey, how are you doing? We both live in the same area. I work live in Kansas City half the year. I'm actually here in Dallas Fort Worth. So a lot of this I already know, but give us our fans from Kansas City and worldwide. How are things in Texas? How are you guys doing?
We're doing pretty well down here, realistically. I think statewide, our numbers as a whole are better than some other areas. I do think, from what I've read, Houston really is kind of carrying that number for the state. But realistically, things are starting to open back up, and people are going back out. I still mask up everywhere I go out in public in any public facility. I wish other people shared that same thought process with me. But things are starting to open again. I think we're like 85% open on types of businesses that are back open.
Yeah, I was out today. Dropped off some food goods to our church, uh, and I got to admit now that I've been out of the house a few times. I'm actually, as I drive, usually I don't really pay much attention, but now I get a stoplight. I'm looking to my left to see, are you wearing your mask? Do you have a mask? And I'm granted we carry ours a lot. And now that you're seeing people, and I don't know if you guys, at least as 80s kids, this happened to as old folks. We used to put our high school graduation tassels on our rearview mirror. Well, now you're
Okay.
seeing people put their COVID mask on their rearview mirror. People driving around like, hey, I've got a mask. Do you? I mean, it's kind of, have you seen any of that? I've seen that.
I didn't know what that was from. I guess now that I realize that's what that is. Yeah, I just keep mine in my passenger seat, and I grab it and go in where I need to go. But yeah, I mean, I think we're doing as good as you can do down here, realistically. I feel like our governor has done a fairly good job of assessing some things and kind of staging us back open. We didn't just say, okay, floodgates are open. My family's been in the restaurant industry our whole life
Right.
before I got into baseball, so that's definitely been tough. A 25% capacity.
Sure.
realistically, in a normal scenario, if your restaurants only fill 25% of the time, you're not going to stay in business. So this is an interesting time. We got to hope that these restaurants get back and people continue to support them through to go food and stuff like that.
Yeah, it's definitely interesting times. Let me just start off because this was asked last week, and I know you've already answered this question a couple of times already, but no organization has probably been affected roster wise in our league, and maybe really in all of domestic U.S. baseball than is your club because you've got that deal with the Chinese national team and that's not going to happen this year apparently. What can you tell us how that's been affected? How you guys had to really sort of go through Plan B, so to speak?
Yeah, it's really kind of frustrating because we already had a plan in place where we were kind of going to identify the Chinese players that were contributors a little bit more this year, and we weren't going to bring the whole 40 guys over this year. We were looking at 15, maybe 20 guys, some extra guys practicing. So realistically, the Airhogs just lost the ace of our staff, I feel like, in Zong
Right,
Tao. The guy was really coming on, found himself at the end of the season, really understood what it meant to get conditioned. It was going to take that into the offseason and hopefully come back strong. So we lose that. I think we lose one of the most versatile players in the whole league in Li Ning, and possibly one of the best glove men who was only 19 last year with our shortstop too. So things are definitely going to change. And that puts a lot of pressure on Billy Martin Jr. And I see the question: are they coming at all? It's going to be tough right now with the travel bans that are put in place by our government. I think they run through October that no one can get in and out from China to get to the United States. So nothing's officially been canceled on any end from either end of this agreement, but unfortunately, you can't get here right now.
right. Yeah, I can go on for the same thing. Talking with Baseball Australia, it's with the same problems right now things are fine in Australia and New Zealand both that travel bubble, but one of the things that they're concerned about going forward is what American players staff like myself will actually be able to travel to Australia at some point. Right now, you can't. So all good stuff. That leads me right into the next thing. And Billy Martin Jr., who's a guy that I've known since my days at Texas Tech. And we go way back to the Greek system on the university campus, but a guy I respect a lot, think very highly of, and he's a really talented young man. I say young man, we're the same age, but he's been busy, and you guys have suddenly gone to Plan B and you've gone the domestic route, and it's sorely. And I looked at and I was I didn't realize how many players you guys assigned. You've got a pretty full roster whenever spring training does start.
Yeah, and I think he's really focused on speed too. If you look at the outfield, we signed a guy named Ronnie Mitchell.
Yep,
That guy can fly. He hit 300 in this league previously. He's played at a fairly high level in affiliated baseball, and again, he can fly. So with him, Javion Randall, and Justin Bird, man in the outfield, you're
yeah,
thinking you're going to take a lot. Our outfield's big to begin with. You need speed out there in general,
yep,
but between those three guys, we should take away a lot of base hits. And Bando likes to put pressure on opposing teams on the base paths, laying bunts down, things like that. He's going to really, I feel like, be able to play true Bando ball this year with some of the guys that we've picked up. And then, of course, our catcher coming in this year, Christian Correa. You know that guy very
right,
well. I've talked with him a couple times. I cannot wait to see the way he handles our pitching staff
right.
because he's got a baseball mind. I feel like the way you talk to him, this is a guy who's thinking 4 or 5 pitches ahead when he's calling this pitch right now. I can't wait to see how he handles our staff.
Yeah, I think I told you. I believe we taped a show there at Airhog Stadium back, and I believe it was October, November this last year when I came on. And great program you guys do. And I told you then, I was like, you're going to love this guy. I mean, you're going to love not only on the field, but the entire makeup of the young man. I mean, I've told this story before. This is a guy that there was a young lady, I think she was like 13 or 14, doing a school project, and it was one of those deals where she had to go write a story about somebody, and she chose a baseball player. Well, she called the Royals. They couldn't really help her. I was like, come on out. And
Yeah.
She chose Christian Craig. And Christian sat down as if it was an official. You thought he was talking to ESPN. He went through a long, really great interview with this young lady and helped her with her project. And he did it. He just was such a class act about it and took the real time. And that's the kind of guy you're getting. I think a lot of guys take the time. You're getting a guy that knows behind the plate and outside the plate. This is a one special guy, and I'm fired up for you guys to have him. I'm gonna miss him. I'm gonna miss this guy.
Yeah, and we get Eric Manoah back again next year too, who, maybe his numbers weren't always great, but he didn't get a lot of run support at times at our stadium, and that guy's work ethic really changed our pitching staff completely. When Zong Tao and Gan Chuan see Eric Manoah running stadium stairs every day and he can pitch into the seventh inning, it dawned on them, I need to run stadium stairs every day and I can pitch into the seventh inning. It was
Right,
a
right,
stop. Everyone told them what to do, but we didn't have a guy going deep into ball games at that point. So when we finally got a guy who can go 6, 7 innings every single time he's out there, and the Chinese pitchers saw this is how he does it, that
right.
was huge for us.
Yeah, yeah. Growing on the fly. I remember walking to your ballpark, and to describe it for the fans there, the clubhouse is a lot like KC or on the right field line, but in Texas, the left field line, but very similar where you get to them. And actually, to walk by, go to the clubhouse, you walk by the weight room. There's this weight room set up next to down the left side of the concourse, and I will walk by that weight room, and it's triple digits, 90 whatever, 98, in Dallas Fort Worth on a July day. There's Eric Manoah working out with weights between starts in there, doing the medicine ball workout. And there's another half dozen young men around him almost trying to follow what he's doing. That was contagious for your ball club. A guy, that pickup was huge for y'all to get him. And it kind of brought the club together, a guy like that.
Absolutely. And then out of nowhere, we find out this guy can swing the stick a little bit
Yeah,
too.
yeah,
And Chris Bando let him have a little bit of fun. I think that was probably some of the most fun Eric had to have had playing baseball. I mean, a pitcher, you haven't been allowed to even pick up a bat. He said he
right.
was nervous when he picked it up. He looked around, no one stopped him. He took 2 steps to the cage, no one stopped him again, and the next thing you know, he's in the lineup. So for him, it was like playing little league baseball again, and I think he really enjoyed kind of being a mentor to some of those young Chinese guys, and I don't think he's ever really maybe had that opportunity before. As he was a fairly young kid when he was drafted, so he was
Right.
kind of always looking up to everybody else. Where now he has an opportunity to help some other people, and I think he really embraced that role.
I look at this roster, and I don't think people and I say this as a Texan who makes his home half a year in Dallas Fort Worth, and you're a guy from Houston. I don't think people realize, they think about football talent in Texas, but they don't realize, first off, there's 30 some odd, almost 40 million people here in the state. It's the second, third largest populated state. We can play baseball dang near year round for the most part. But it's nice to be in this area, because when you do go to Plan B, you've got such a fertile ground. I look at some of these guys like Mitchell, you got Ronnie Mitchell, Matt Dean, Justin Bird, a Rockwall guy. I noticed you got a kid from Mesquite, Matt Terrones. I mean, you're able to dig into a really fertile baseball ground. That's a huge advantage for you and for Cleveland.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we're in the independent baseball business, right? Anytime a guy already has his own place to live and he's good at what he does, that's a bonus, right?
Yeah,
So, the first question anytime Billy signs someone, our Nate, our GM, has is, does he have housing?
right, right.
That's realistically that's the first question. So, if the answer is yes, we're excited about that. But also at the same time, it's to have some local talent. We can really do some fun things with the fans in the area because
Yes,
we can build on that. Justin Bird literally had a cheering section last year when we signed him. Matt Terrones is going to bring a lot of
yes,
fans out to the ballpark. Um, these are things that we can send these players out in the offseason now as well. Matt Dean's gone out to a school for us and done some reading in elementary school. Same with Justin Bird. It's nice when you have these guys here locally, and we did a schedule launch event where 6 or 7 players show up and sign autographs for the fans and stuff like that. You can't always do that unless you have these guys who are living here in the area.
sure,
And, we're blessed that we have that. Some of the other teams in the league, um, they're not exactly in the most populous areas. They're
sure.
bringing in a lot of talent. And there's great talent, again, throughout the whole league. It's just not all of them get to live at home in the off season,
Sure.
realistically.
8 million people in one area. That's a lot of folks that play baseball. The voice you're hearing is Tim Costello. He's the voice of the Texas Airhogs, division bunkmates of ours, as we a little ticket speak for 1310 in the Metroplex. But last year, another exciting year for them, and this year, I think roster wise, exciting wise. You mentioned speed, and I want to go a guy that I don't know how much speed he has, but defensively, and I'm looking at interesting names. I always love interesting tidbits. Clelius Rondon, I believe he played 406 innings 2 years ago in the infield as a shortstop. In 3 stops when 2 organizations, he only made 16 errors. This guy's got a glove, assuming he's that guy to anchor shortstop for you guys. What do you know about that guy?
I've talked a little bit about Billy with him. So we signed him originally when we had thought the Chinese were probably going to be back. So our plan with him was kind of going to be that super utility guy, really kind of taking on the role that Josh Prince played early on in the season, at least defensively, being able to play 3 to 4 different positions. Um, but now with things changing, that we're looking at this guy probably manning the shortstop position and feeling really comfortable about it. He's played at a fairly high level too. He advanced through the minor leagues with not exactly the best batting average, so that
Right,
just shows you how good his glove was at shortstop. That when you have an athlete like that defensively, guys keep saying, maybe that bat will come along. His glove's so good though. That bat will come along, but this
right.
glove, so he keeps getting up there. So, he's seen high levels of pitching, and the hope is, when he gets here to the American Association, he can settle in. But we know at least for sure we're going to have some really solid defense at shortstop.
I look at other guys too in your roster card, guys like you mentioned Randall and Bird, guys like that. The one advantage, and I'm not trying to knock what the roster was built like before because you really had no choice, but now with more domestic help, when we do this in Australia a lot. This goes through my Australian baseball mind where you have the imports versus the domestic players. You've got more domestic players, U.S. players. Should the lineup card, I would think on paper, help a guy like a Randall or a Bird or even a Mitchell with better bat? Not, I shouldn't say better. That's probably the wrong word. More experienced batters around him. That's got to excite at least from your seat that there may be some pretty impressive numbers put up.
Yeah, absolutely. And, Javion Randall, I think, is a guy who could probably benefit the most from this scenario. Jay is one of the most infectious personalities you'll ever find in a locker room. I don't think he's ever had a bad day as long as he's in the starting lineup, realistically. It doesn't matter what happened on the field, he got a chance to play baseball professionally. He's overlooked out of high school, goes to Jarvis Christian College. There's some scouts who
Yep.
want to draft him, but their organizations say, where did he play? And they didn't draft him. So the guy hits
Right.
400
Right.
plus in the Pecos, wins the MVP. Hits 400 plus in the Pacific Association, wins the MVP. Barely gets a sniff. He signs with us to replace Dylan Thomas, who had just gotten picked up the year before. So he's never had a chance to really rely on anybody. As soon as he got here, he was taking Dylan Thomas's roster spot. So in people's mind,
Right.
this was the guy who's going to replace realistically the best hitter in the league in 2018. Um, and now this guy who's never played at this level before is going to be expected to replace that. And then last year, he's kind of expected to anchor a lineup that he's still a young ball player. In any other scenario, Javion Randall would be taken under somebody else's wing and let me show you how to do it, kid. And
Right.
realistically, he's now having to
Right.
to bring Li Ning under his wing because Li
Right.
Ning needed to learn left field.
Right.
And, Jay was still learning some things. So I think having all these other ball players, especially some of the guys who have played at, higher levels in affiliated ball, um, Jay's a guy who likes to pick people's brains. He wants to get there as bad as anybody else. And I think he could. He's never had an official lesson, Jay is self-taught. He has taught himself
Right.
everything he knows. And look where he's gotten himself at this point. Um, when somebody sees him and says, let me tweak a few things with you, he's going to take off.
Far as another one more interesting name before I jump to a couple of more I'll say lighthearted, but Zane Gelfman, 18 home runs in 64 ball games. Yes, it's the Pacific Athletic Association. We're a Pacific Association, but there's been some pretty good ball players, especially come from from that league to go play in Gary, for example. But I don't care if you had 16 home runs or 18 home runs in 64 ball games. In beer league, that's pretty impressive. I don't care where you. That's a pretty impressive number. I mean, this is a guy that could have a little pop in that card too.
I have been begging Billy for 2 years to stop signing left-handed power hitters and to get me a right-handed power hitter. And when he signed this guy, he finally called me and he's like, "Here you go. Okay, I got you a right-handed guy with some pop." Because the wind blows from right to left at Airhog Stadium. So as long as he doesn't maybe try and get Homer happy and still makes good solid swings, this is a guy who could maybe hit 20, 25 homers in 100 game season in American Association. I'm not sure what we ended up playing,
Right, right,
but this is a guy who really could hit some big time homers for us, and that's something we haven't had. Billy keeps signing left-handed hitters, and the ball just dies in right field. Imes had 10 to 15 homers taken away from him at Airhog Stadium alone. I've seen him tip his helmet to the wind on 5 or 6 times. Like, he doesn't even get mad anymore when it
right,
happens.
right,
Like, it
right.
just is what it is. But finally, we got a right-handed bat.
You got a right-handed bat, definitely an interesting name as well. Tim Costello joining us here, voice of the Airhogs. The Us broadcasters, we're now into that zone now because we've all crossed. Usually by May 1, most of us are kind of in spring training mode, either having media days or having dry run broadcasts. And now we're about a week away, usually from starting. Has your routine as a broadcaster? Is it? Mine's been thrown off, totally wheels off. Has your routine been thrown off as crazy as mine has?
A little bit, and what's frustrating is I start stretching out like my sleep schedule about this time of year too
Yep.
because I need to be at my sharpest
Yes.
realistically about 7:05 every single night. So I'm up till 3 or 4 in the morning, and then I sleep till 10 or 11.
Sure.
So in quarantine has very much helped me stretch that sleep schedule out. But now it's unfortunately no longer as productive, and I don't have a game getting ready to go. So I'm trying to now at this point, I'm trying to bring my sleep schedule back, and then I know at some point I'm going to need to stretch it back out again because, like, when we're home, I'm at the ballpark at 10 in the morning, and with the things that I have in place media wise this year, I'm probably not getting out of there till about 1 o'clock every night. So I'm expecting myself to, need to carry on for about 13, 14 hours at the ballpark and be good on that amount of sleep. You start preparing yourself for that, and then all of a sudden you don't need it, and it starts messing with you a little bit.
Georgette says they loved having Ronnie Mitchell and his family, so you're getting a good. You already knew that, but put that up on the screen for you there. Okay, I really, and this is a lot of our fans know this, and most people, even the Gary fans, would know. From I used to get on a soapbox, and I really want baseball to succeed in the state of Texas. I mean, it's where I was born, and I want the game, especially at the minor league level, to succeed. I could not have been more excited to see all the exciting energy that's been brought to your organization. I think you feel it too, and I've seen it. Can you tell me about that? It seems like there's a different. I don't want to use the word culture necessarily. Maybe it is culture, but there seems to be a different energy that you guys have, and I love it. I love going to see you guys, and it's just a different place. Tell me about that.
I really think I think it started, really 2 GMs ago with JT, and now, but I think Nate really is the one who you're
Yeah.
feeling now. So if you want to use a football analogy, JT was kind of that coach who takes a 2-14 team to 8-8.
Yep.
Gets you some really good talent. And, I think, JT brought in Nate, and he brought in myself. He brought in Justin Terry. He brought in some other people who work with us on game day basis. And then he got another opportunity. But I think Nate has really um, understood the importance of media, social media, the relevance of having a good broadcast and doing the things like we do with Hog Heaven. Those don't cost us any money to
Right.
do, but people see it and we start to get views in the off season. Realistically, we're starting to put a new age thought process to this old thing called baseball at the end of the day,
Right.
and really see ourselves as pillars of the community. The whole point of the Hog Heaven show that we did in person was, we want to highlight great things that are going on in the area in the off season, because I don't have baseball to talk about for eight
Sure.
months, but there's a lot of great business owners who employ veterans or are veterans themselves, or have great programs for students. Or I've had a chance to talk with a local high school golfer who was invited to California, one of 50 high school golfers in the nation, to play in a tournament. She's from South Grand Prairie High School. So getting to put some of these great people in front of the camera and say, you know, talk about what you do. Not everybody knows who you are, but they
Right.
should. And I think that's the best part about working in this industry, is that we're realizing now is we are pillars of the community, and we should be there showcasing our community when we don't have baseball to put on.
Now, a little friendly rivalry. You guys, Cleburne, and you guys are just across town. So, uh, is that rivalry as heated as I think it is from my seat? I mean, I'm watching from a distance. I mean, you guys, you got a little rivalry going there.
Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna be honest with you. I think they are more rivals with us than we are with them. Like
Okay.
they don't like us at all. And I think when you look at how things broke down for Cleburne last year, you could say the Airhogs possibly kept them out of the playoffs because you guys manhandled us. I think you only lost one game in total
Yep.
against the Airhogs, and Sioux City manhandled us as well. And we won. I think we went like 5-4 against Cleburne. So I know every time I left that stadium, like I got cold shoulders and cold looks from like the ushers and stuff, and people are like, "You guys aren't supposed to beat us." And I'm like, "Hey, we're gonna win 28, 30 of these things. Like they got to happen at some time." And um, I think they're pretty upset about that at the end of the day because they had a great season. And then
Sure.
we took a game late from them that they needed in Cleburne, and I don't know if people we really have a true rival within our organization, but I know that they see us that way, especially um, when we were both owned by the same owner for a little bit of time. Like they kind of had this little brother mentality that like we never felt like the big brother. We were kind of, I guess, already there. They were the new team. They wanted to beat the established team, stuff like that. But now I don't want there to be a rivalry. Realistically, I think the better our teams work together, the
Sure.
better it is for baseball. Obviously competitive, sure. We want to beat each other, but we don't want to hate each other at the end of the day,
Right.
right?
Right.
I really enjoyed going on Brad and Dennick's show the other day and talking with those guys, and like doing this with you. I think our whole league should kind of have this, at least on the broadcasters and front office
Sure.
side of things. I want to beat everybody
Sure.
realistically, but I also love coming to Kansas City and seeing you, or I love going to
Sure.
Lincoln and I love seeing Michael when I get to Lincoln. Those are the really, really fun parts of this thing.
Sure, and there's no doubt there's a fraternity there, no doubt about it. And I remember some old days back when I was back in the mid 2000s when when the Airhogs would play Fort Worth, and there was some crazy nights in both ballparks. But we'll share that another time. Other ventures, you've got something that I think is really cool, and you have to explain it to me more, maybe better, because I'm going to kind of just give you the. Well, tell me about it. It's a historical podcast, and I love this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Tell me about what you're doing. I love it. I love the
So
name.
it's called Who Ira and Costello. Who's on first? I got started in this industry with a gentleman named Ira Liebman, who was my mentor with the Sugarland Skeeters. And I've always been someone who I love baseball history. I've read every baseball history book you can imagine. My reading material as a kid growing up in the bathroom was a baseball almanac. So I've just always soaked that stuff up, and
Sure.
I just was going crazy. I really was, with no baseball at all to talk about. And I reached out to Ira and I said, let's do a historical podcast. And what we did is we're taking every season one episode at a time. Each episode's about an hour long, and we started with 1919, and it's going to be 100 episodes of baseball's history. And so we've gone through 1927 so far, and it's been really great, kind of looking back and not only talking about Major League Baseball. I've really made a focus to always put a segment aside for the Negro Leagues as well, because that was a huge part of our talent pool for
Yes.
50 years that was completely overlooked. And it's been really fun to kind of see some of the things that started there that make its way into baseball. They had the first playoffs in America in baseball.
Right.
There was playoffs in the Negro Leagues long before there was playoffs in the major leagues.
Yep.
And so it's really cool to see some of the promotions, that side of things, that started in that league make its way into where we are now, and to see really some of the players that you've heard some of these names before, but then there's a lot of players that when I go back through this, there's a lot of guys that were overlooked. One of the people Ira and myself were talking about was Harry Heilman. The guy won 9 batting titles and was an MVP at one point, and I'd never heard of him until this. And he had a
Right.
career. He's got the 12th highest career batting average in Major League history, and I'd never heard of the guy. And he played with Ty Cobb. Um,
Sure.
it's so cool to kind of be able to just go look at this stuff because the best thing about baseball, the game's never really changed. Football has the rules have realistically changed. The way the game was played has realistically changed. Basketball, there wasn't always a 3-point line. You can't really look at basketball stats when Bill Russell was there because he was the tallest guy on the court. Well, now he's LeBron size. It's not the same thing. But I can look at the 1927 Yankees and I can compare them to any other team in Major League history, and I can draw a comparison based on WAR and OPS and all those other
Right.
things. And it's just you can't do it with anything else.
Sure. Sure. It's one of those. I love the fact that it's historically driven. I mean, having spent time at the Hall of Fame a year ago at spring break, and you and I, as my wife just said, kindred spirits, is no doubt. I'm right now doing the 1918 season. There's so many little tidbits about the 18 season that mirrors today and things I didn't even know about. I mean, you can take 1 year and learn so much. I love that. I'm looking, I did check out a little of I think it was whatever the week before his episode. I checked out a little bit this morning. I loved it. It was great stuff. So where can they find the podcast?
Yeah, it's available on Apple Podcasts, on iHeart, on Spotify, and then I use Spreaker as my broadcasting tool, so it's available
Gotcha.
there. And a lot of people don't realize what's cool. 1918, Babe Ruth doesn't become Babe Ruth if it's not
Yep.
for the Spanish flu. They
Yep.
needed someone to play
Yep.
the outfield, and here comes Babe Ruth. So
Yep.
that's baseball. It's so freaking cool that like we have Babe Ruth because they had literally nobody else to play.
It's true. It's true. We talked about that 2 weeks ago on my Wednesday's Wisdom, and I'm going to talk about that a little bit at the tail end of the show today. But okay. I've been asking everybody the same question.
Okay.
What are you streaming right now? What is the binge watching?
Ooh.
What's binge watching in your browser? I guess your browser. I guess in your Netflix account.
I am a giant West Wing guy, so
Okay.
I've been watching the West Wing a fair amount. I watched Community for the first time ever, and I really really like that.
Good
And I
show.
just listened to a podcast on the Waco scenario, so now
Gotcha.
I'm watching Waco, trying to see you know
Yes.
it's kind of hard to get through without knowing what's going on some of that stuff. So I
Yeah.
wanted to hear the podcast. It's like when my mom made me read The Green Mile before she let me see the movie first.
I got you. Well, we watched Waco all the way through on Friday night, so I got you. Hey, I appreciate it, and I love what you guys are doing there, and I just hope we see each other this summer in the real and real. How about that?
Yeah, I'm hoping so, man. My trips to Kansas City are my favorite. You got that great Arthur Bryant's barbecue right across the street from the
Right
ballpark,
there.
and I'm gonna need some of that at some
I
point.
got you. I got you. Appreciate your time, my friend, and always a pleasure catching up. And we will see you down the road. How about it?
Absolutely.
That's Tim Costello, voice of the fine and dandy Texas Airhogs. Appreciate it, bud. Appreciate your
Yep.
time. There he is, right there. Great stuff. Just a phenomenal guy. I mean, and I really, and I mean this, and my wife and I've had this conversation over and over again. That's a stadium and an environment that used to really be jumping, and those folks, not those folks, but there was some, it's like anything. If you step back and take the pedal off the gas and don't do the things that got you success, you suddenly find yourself not as successful. And I don't think there's any secret that operation was not as successful as it is now. And it's because of what they've done. Their culture changed. They've got guys like Tim and Nate Gutierrez, just phenomenal folks have been a part of things. And I'm going to segue with a little couple of items here. First off, let's segue with this graphic here and show you. There we go. We're going to segue. I'm going to give you guys a little highlight reel as well, and then we're going to jump all the way down to the islands in just a moment. But first off, I want to give you guys a little audio montage from last season. And this is, I think, some pretty good stuff. I think this is one of my more memorable broadcasts from June. Would have been June 14th, I believe. And let's give it a listen. I promise Let's try it again. Let's try it again. Here we go.
Here's a ground ball left side, base hit down the line. Toward the corner. Here comes one run. Rounding's another. Into second base. Stand-up double for Roy Morales. 2-0, Kansas City. Here's Morales' RBIs 9 and 10. And it took one swing right past the third baseman, and the T-Bones in business in Texas. 2-0. The whole busload and a half. Here's a 2-0. Line to the left field line. Yeah, base hit to the corner. Another Roy Morales double. Bounces around, scoring 2 runs. Morales into second base. And it's 6-1 Kansas City. Morales again. RBIs 11 and 12. And Roy Morales is in fuego.
He sure was in fuego. That's Roy right there.
Here's a ground ball left
side. Last season there. I'll pull that down there. But Roy's actually on the line. He was there. I'm going to wait for him to come right back up again, but I'm going to pull him up as soon as I see Roy there. He was right there a moment ago, and I'm going to pull him up. As soon as I see Roy, I will pull him up. But Roy Morales will be joining us in just a second. He was right there during the highlights, and then he lost the connection. But I will get Roy to you in just a moment. But we had him ready to go, and he will, Roy, if you're hearing me. There we go. He's back. He's back. Let's go ahead and bring him in right now as I see him coming up on the screen, and let me go ahead and pull him up. And here we go. Let's give him a countdown and bring him in. And here we go. Hello, Roy. How you doing? Can you hear me? Hey, you hear me, right? You got me? All right. Good. Let me pull this volume down just a bit here. Okay.
If I find some headphones or something like that, real quick.
Okay. There you go. Much better. Let him get set up there as we have the Steakhouse here talking a little T-Bones baseball. And Roy kind enough to take the time to join us as he's getting all set up. There you go. You can hear me now.
Yeah.
All right. How you doing,
Now I
bud?
can hear you.
How you doing, Roy?
Everything's good. How are you?
Good. So
How's everything there?
Everything's great. We're doing great. Are you staying busy down there in Puerto Rico?
Yeah.
Well, you got your. Is that
There's a
your
lot of
dog
stuff
there?
going on right here.
Is that your dog?
Yeah,
right
there's
there?
my dog here.
Well, what's
Yeah,
your dog's
he's always
name?
with me here.
What's your dog's name? Koki. Is he's
Toki. Yeah.
Koki. Is he enjoying having you home?
Yeah, he's always with me all the time. Even when I sleep, he sleep with me.
he has his place to sleep for sure. Well, first off, how are you doing? How are things down there in Puerto Rico? Are you guys holding up well? Are things going well for you down there?
Well, everything's going pretty well so far here. Everything is getting better. You can see all the people going to the streets now, like with the mask, with all the secure stuff. But everything is getting better, a lot better.
Tell us about what you've been doing to stay baseball shape. Are you working out? Are you running? What is it you're doing to stay in baseball shape?
I've been working out almost every day, and I have a batting cage behind on my home, so I can practice there some batting stuff. I can run here because I have like a long distance street, so I can run a little bit here. I can do some reps. I got some weights too, so I've been working out pretty good so far here.
The voice you hear, that's the face you see, a smiling face is Roy Morales, the Kansas City T-Bones All-Star in 2019. And we're talking T-Bones baseball here on the Steakhouse. Roy, last year was a big year for you. You were an All-Star. You had a great season. For you going into it, what were the keys? What was it that really got you going last year? Was there something you did differently, or was it a certain preparation you did? Tell us about your All-Star season.
I mean, it was a great season. Thanks for that. And I don't know. I prepare myself every time the same. I just try to be relaxed all the time. Try to be confident with myself. And then my teammates from the last year, they helped me a lot with a lot of stuff, with the batting. My coaching staff, they helped me a lot. They are pretty smart guys there. They know a lot from baseball. I learned a lot from the guys from the big leagues that we had last year. So that was awesome. That experience, I love to play in Kansas last year. I love it. We have a really good, great guys from
Uh,
teammates,
uh,
and I love that.
uh, Donna says
I,
there that your room is ready. She says your room's ready, Roy.
yeah, I know. I tell to I tell them that I want to stay again. If I go into Kansas again, I want to stay at that home again.
Gotcha. Now I hear some chickens in the background. You on a farm? Is that what you guys live on a farm?
Yeah, we raise a lot of chickens here. We have like
Okay,
probably like we have a lot. We have a lot
you
of
got a lot.
chickens. Probably like more than 300.
That wow, 300.
Probably more
Wow,
than
that's a
that.
lot of chickens there,
Yeah.
bud. Wow, that's a lot.
Yeah,
Um,
we live like in a farm here. We have a lot
right.
of animals here.
You growing up in Puerto Rico, baseball is huge. It's a big game. Uh, what are some of the
Yeah.
heroes you had growing up? Who are the Puerto Rican baseball heroes that you look up to? Guys that you wanted to be like when you were a young man?
Well, I will say the first name I will say is Roberto Clemente. That's the first name that we probably every Puerto Rican is supposed to have, right? But I mean,
Right,
that's like a hero from us. That's like a big hero from from what he did in baseball, like in the baseball field, and what he did like outside of baseball too. He's like a great
right,
person, like role model to be. And another name that I will say probably is Poch, Ivan Rodriguez.
right.
That's another big name for me. Uh, that's a big role model to me too. Like, outstanding catcher, probably one of the best of all time, right? And
Right.
I love how he play, his energy that he have, and he bring it to the field every night. It's awesome.
When what age were you when you started playing baseball? How young were you? Were you pretty young?
Yeah, I started playing baseball when I had 3 years old.
Wow, you've been playing forever, for a
Yeah,
long time.
yeah,
Um,
I've been playing all my life.
all your life. Was there a point in your life, maybe as a young man or even recently, you realized, hey, this is something I really want to do? Was there a certain moment when you would said to yourself, this is what I want to do is play baseball?
I mean, all my life I want to play baseball. From when I was 4, I was
Right,
saying like I want to be a big league player from a little kid. That was my dream
right,
all the time. So I try to. I'm on the road to get it right. So we'll see
right,
what happens.
right, right. Um, okay, now I got now. This question is coming from the audience here. Now they want to know: does your dog chase the chickens? Does your dog chase the
No, no,
critter?
no, no.
No.
We trying to train our dogs to don't chase the chickens because my dad hates when they chase the chickens.
Right.
He hate that. So
Yeah, he
we
would.
train that we train. Hi.
Jeff says, "Hey, Roy." Yeah, my dog would go crazy. My dog chases squirrels. We have squirrels in our yard. He goes crazy for squirrels. I can only imagine what he'd do for chickens, but he'd go nuts for chickens. But what? Tell me
I know.
about. If I love. I've been to Puerto Rico 3 times. I love the island. I, but it's so beautiful and I just love the beauty of it. Do you real? I mean, I guess you realize, but do you spend a lot of time at the beach or things of that nature? Because that's kind of what I think people would do. You go to the beach a lot,
I mean, this year I went a lot. I've gone to a lot of places from Puerto Rico that I don't know. Like we have a lot of places to go, like to visit and like to explore. And I was doing that in this off season a lot. Yeah, I
Sure,
love it. I went
sure.
to the beach like probably like more than 10 times this off season, and I love every single day that I went to the beach. Like it's awesome.
It's
We
beautiful.
have
Puerto
like
Rico's
a
beautiful.
lot of places to explore. Yeah, yeah, it's a
Yes,
beautiful island, and it's small, so that's good. That's a good
yes,
thing. That it's small that
yes.
you can go like around the island probably like in 5 hours, probably more,
I went
6 hours,
right.
but something like that.
I went to the rainforest one year when I went down there. It was beautiful down there with the frogs. It was just so beautiful down there. Down by Rio
Yeah, yeah, it's
Grande,
pretty
down
cool.
that way.
I never went to the rainforest, but I'm gonna go. I want to go one day. It's
Beautiful,
awesome. I know
beautiful.
it's awesome. A lot of people go there. It's beautiful.
Now, I like to eat. I'm an eating guy. So, what is the favorite dish in Puerto Rico? What's the thing that people like to eat in Puerto Rico? Is there a certain thing that everybody loves in Puerto Rico?
Rice and beans. Probably
Rice.
the
Hey,
first thing that everybody eats here. Rice and beans. We got another rice. I don't know how they call it in English, but they say arroz con gandules. I don't
okay.
know what is the name of gandules in English, but that's like a really big stuff here. And pork, like pork for like winter time, it's really huge too. And some fries, like fried plantains.
Oh,
We
yum.
love fried plantains a lot here. And another thing that we call it mofongo is coming from the plantain too. That is awesome. And we have like a lot of different fruits from the United States. Like, well, they are almost the same, but
Right.
the flavor is kind of similar, like kind of different, similar, but it's kind of different when you taste the fruit from here, from USA fruits.
Right. Wrapping things up, but tell us how big is your family? Do you have a big family? Brothers, sisters, or are you the only child? Do you have a big family?
Yeah, I got two brothers. I got a sister. They have 34. No, wait, 36, and my brother have 34.
Gotcha.
And
Gotcha.
each one have two kids. So
So
I
you're an
got four
uncle.
siblings already.
Yeah, I got you.
Yeah,
I got you. I got you. I got you. I
they're
got you. Well,
awesome.
I'm
They're
so happy.
awesome.
They're awesome. So do you have do you have big family get-togethers and things of that nature? Big family parties?
Mm, kinda, but we are a small family and we are always together. That's good thing.
That's good.
Like we are always together. Like everything that we gonna do, we do it together. So that's pretty good. I love that.
Well, I appreciate you taking the time, and I'm glad you're doing well. And any final words for our folks in
Thank.
Kansas City?
I mean, keep working hard, chase your dream all the time, and we'll see what's going to happen with the coronavirus now.
Yeah,
If he gonna let us play, right?
right, right. Well, we're all hoping and praying we do, my friend. We're hoping and praying we do. It's good to see your smiling face. I'm so glad you
Yeah.
joined us. Thank you. Thank you very much, man. Thanks.
Thank you for the opportunity to be there, to be here.
Hey, you're awesome. Awesome, buddy. Hey, it's good to see you. Thanks, Roy. Appreciate your time. We'll talk to you down the road, okay?
Thank you.
All
Thank
right.
you.
That's Roy
Have a good
Morales.
time.
You bet. You bet. Roy Morales there for the. Go ahead. Good to see you, bud.
Good to see you.
There you go. Thank you very much, Roy Morales, joining us on the show. Great to hear him. What a fine young man. I mean, that is, again, I talk about this all the time. That one of the things that's so important in our organization and in this baseball business is good people. And we just talked to Tim Costello a while ago. What a great guy. Talking to Roy Morales, what a great guy. And we're so fortunate as T-Bone's family to have such great people around us, whether it be our opponents, our own players, our staff members, whatever it is we have. It's so important. And I'd be remiss if I didn't say that Joe Pietra's done as a T-Bone manager, getting quality young men, not just great ball players, but great young men, great people. And that's such a big thing and such an important thing. And to see those and to see a smiling face like Roy, that means so much. He's a very, very fine young man. We appreciate his time, and it does my heart good to see a smiling face all the way from Puerto Rico. How about that, huh? We had Australia last week. We had Puerto Rico this week. I mean, we're truly a global show here at the Steakhouse. Glad you're along. My name is Dan Vaughn, the voice of the Kansas City T-Bones. Question, comment time as well. If you guys want to chime in, I got some catching up to do a little bit here. Brad saying, great show as always. Appreciate your kind words, Brad, as I need to get out of the graphic there, don't I? Need a graphics person to get that out of the way. But by the way, Brad had a great by the way, I want to segue to this. Because there is no real news to speak of, but I'm going to give you some specks of good news, okay? Let me try to kind of paint some good news vibes for us in the baseball world, okay? First off, the fact that Major League Baseball is talking, has a plan in place, is better than any time in the recent memory. In the last 50 days, there's been since spring training was shut down, there's been no plan. It's all been kind of speculation, rumors here and all that. We finally have something out there. Now, granted, the Major League Baseball Players Association and the owners got to come to some agreements, and it probably will get a little messy. Maybe not. Hopefully, all clear heads, and they'll just go forward. But that's a good sign, and that's a really good sign. Number two, listening to Brad, watching Brad Allred and Denny Gehrig's show with Josh Buchholz. Of course, we had Josh on about 3 weeks ago. Their show yesterday with the Cleveland Railroaders, I got a really good little just a little tidbit of things. And I want to give you this little sort of good thought. I mean, maybe a good angle, because all we're talking about, fans and no fans and things of that nature. I think there is a silver lining here in the American Association. Let's just take the map of the American Association. Let's draw a line where it is. Obviously, Winnipeg up north, straight down the middle of the continental North America, all the way down to Cleveland and Grand Prairie. Now, granted, all those cities are different. Sioux Falls, Sioux City, Twin Cities, Winnipeg is a question mark. But the point is, that whole direction, I think we're in a really good spot, our location, because if, let's just say the New York Penn League was to start tomorrow, they ain't gonna happen. I mean, that's the rookie league. Of course, that may not be going away anyway. But there's a lot of minor league teams in Metro New York and New Jersey and Pennsylvania and those hot spots up in that part of the seaboard, Eastern Seaboard that aren't going to play baseball. Because they're geographically located, they're not going to have fans at all. But where we're located now, with Texas opening up and Kansas, looking like probably another week or so away, Missouri in that same boat and going north. Now, granted, Winnipeg may be a question mark. St. Paul may be a question mark for the moment, but it looks like there's some positive things happening. And what Josh mentioned is that the fact the Atlantic League, located mostly in the East, has a lot different situation because of where they're geographically located. And I think we haven't really thought in those terms yet, that where we're located geographically, right in the middle of North America, I think that's a plus for us. And I think that's a silver lining that we haven't really thought about. So I'll throw that piece out there to you as well, that's a good thing coming to you from there as well. So if you want to find the silver lining here, there are silver linings here. I mean, there are stories out there. Major League Baseball doing their thing. The fact that we're not the Atlantic League and we're located in the middle of the country. Now, granted, there are still a lot of obstacles, a lot of hurdles in the way, but I think that's a real plus. That's a real plus for us. And then noticing that the KBO in Korea and the CPBL in Taiwan have still plugged along, and it looks like fans will be are already in the Chinese league, and Korea is talking about it, which, again, those are all positive steps in the right direction. So I'm trying to be as positive in this thing as we possibly can, because we're all obviously tapping our toes going, well, gosh, if the big league's going to play in 50 days, how are we going to play? Well, I think that there's still a lot of things going. If you watched if you follow Twitter at all, you would have seen St. Paul's post this week about what their crowd enactment's going to be like, how they're going to handle their crowds. And there's going to be some things that are being the works in progress for all the teams. But again, trying to be as positive as we possibly can. There are some positive signs. It doesn't mean I'm not telling you we're going to play baseball X amount of date. What I am saying to you is that for the first time in a while, we've seen some positive steps forward. Now, whether that's enough, we're going to find out. I know the American Association is working tirelessly. You know, Josh Buchholz and Josh Rashab have both, and with ownership and the GMs have all been at it on a weekly, daily basis. And Josh also mentioned that, and he told us this as well, that he's talking to both leagues, the Frontier and the Atlantic as well, and they're all kind of going through this together. So that's all things that are still in motion. So there's my piece of good news. Other piece of good news is, before I close out with Wednesday's wisdom here, I'm going to give you this because it is that time of the week again when we show you our KBO report. That's right. It's the KBO, folks. KBO, the Korean Baseball League. It's in full swing. Let me bring that graphic down because I'll give you a weekly update here. And as we had your crash course last week, here's your KBO standings, folks. And it's been a good week for the NC Dinos and the Lotte Giants. They both went 6-1. The Heroes, sort of the team a lot of folks had kind of lurking in the weeds at 4th or 5th place early on to a great 6-2 start. And then the Doosan Bears, who a lot of folks really liked as really a lot of people's pick was the top of the league, 4-3. The Twins at 4-3. The Tigers at 4-4. Samsung, I bought you a TV yesterday, by the way, Samsung Lions. We got a new TV in our house, and the Samsung Lions 3-5. The Eagles 2-6. They won one of their aces starts. They lost. They blew a late bullpen lead. Had another word of the bag with my buddy Warwick Suppold, but they blew a lead in their bullpen late, and we're now at 2-6. And then Wyverns is 1-6, and the Wiz 1-6. The Wiz probably the biggest surprise. I think a lot of folks had them 4th or 5th spot, but have them right now. They're in the cellar of the KBO through week number 1, and the KBO rolling that along tonight. And you can see some of that action on ESPN, ESPN2 as well. And for you folks watching in Australia, you got your own links as well to watch the KBO Korean Baseball League. CPBL is also on. I don't have a report for you on that one, but I love the KBO. I think it's a great league. And again, 10 teams in the KBO. If you want to know more about the KBO, go back to last week's show. Paul Morgan joined me from Australia. He's been right there on the ground in Busan and seen the league up close. Gives you really good insight into baseball in the Korean Baseball League. So there you go with that. A couple of catch-ups here. Let's see here. Great stuff from Roy. That's right, GM. And Jeff also saying, and GM also saying, Roy always thank the grounds crew when he entered the dugout. Nice guy. Again, believe me, those little things are not lost on me and on staff. And guys like that are just so – all-star is great, but little things like that go a long way. And I guarantee you, Joe Capietra, and I keep saying this to you, and I know Chris Brown believes this, and player procurement, in that role, getting not just good players, but good people. And I really believe that in a sense of business. It's something that I believe that's helped the T-Bones. I mean, with this been a crazy year for the T-Bones. We go back to last summer, the up and downs we've had. But having good people in place, as I told you, folks, back even when things were in limbo, having good people goes a long way, and a long, long way in really having your making things successful. And having good people like Roy is a huge plus. Gilliam, a guest. Kenny, thank you very much. Yeah, we've gone to Australia, gone to Puerto Rico, and here in Texas as well. I appreciate it, Kenny, for the kind words. Good to see you, brother. Let's catch up here. Questions, comments section. You, Brad, Tim, and all the other media persons doing a great job keeping Association baseball. Yeah, you got to do that, Mom. We've got to do that. It's one thing that I can tell you. Pull the curtain back a bit. When I was in Belize on holiday with the wife, I was on a conference call with the league, a couple of league members, broadcasters, and Denning was one of them, and Cleburne. And we talked, and one of the things we talked about from a league perspective was to keep as much content going as possible, keep the people talking about our league, not so much dollars and cents, not about sales and marketing, which are the lifeblood of a normal year. In a normal year, ticket sales and specials and revenue is huge. That's all still huge as you're losing revenue right now. But what's huge is to keep that name out there, the goodwill. And that's why things like the stay-at-home thing we did with our partners at Just Bats and routine baseball. Well, those things are so important. That's why those little things to keep the goodwill going and to keep your brand going. But I appreciate it. Thank you very much for that. Let's see what else we got here. I don't know anything else. Questions, comments as we go the last tail end of the show. Now, usually we open the show with Wednesday's Wisdom. I'm going to actually go to Wednesday's Wisdom now because Wednesday's Wisdom was usually open, but I had a little bit of a late start here. So Wednesday's Wisdom, which if you've never watched the show before, it's a baseball nugget, lately been more historical in nature. I've really been focusing on the 1918 season, which has a very similar feel to the 2020 season. And I'll tell you why. And this is one thing that I mentioned in a Twitter conversation earlier this week. A lot of folks were like, what are we going to do with baseball playing 82 games? And what are we going to do with people in the ballpark? And what are we going to – some of this stuff's been done before. What we're going through in sport this summer has been done before. And not necessarily because of this virus, but I'll give you this picture right there that came from the 1918 season. Actually, I'm going to see if I can actually give you a better shot of that there. There you go. Picture of the 1918 season. That's baseballers doing drills pre-game. Now, you've seen this in World War II, very common during World War II time, right? In the 1940 40 season and onward. You saw some of this stuff you saw this, but this was something done as the U.S. entered World War I, 1917-18. This is actually the 1918 season of the future doughboys doing drills at a ballpark. And it led me to kind of do a little research and just a little bit of looking at the 1918 season. And here's a couple of things that happened in 1918 that I don't think people quite know, quite really thought about. And I'm going to give it to you, and like read my teleprompter here, but some odds and ends. First off, the 1918 season would have been, there was two things going on at that time. A, World War I, and B, the 1918 Spanish flu, which we've determined since then was not from Spain at all. But that flu was taken over the trenches of World War I. Some of it was brought back. And we've talked a little bit about how spring training in 1918 was located in roundabout locations, and even how Babe Ruth caught the Spanish flu twice. And he actually had to play. Tim was telling us earlier that Babe Ruth was actually when it became a hitter because they were shorthanded. I told you that story a couple of weeks ago, that Babe Ruth in the 1918 season went from pitching to playing the field and eventually became the Sultan of SWAT because of the rosters and because of the Spanish flu 1918. But here's what happened in 1917, 18. But after the 1917 season, of course, the war was raging on in Europe. There was a lot of things that Major League Baseball did to make things more palatable for the players. They wanted, first off, the outcry of the American people, where they wanted everybody to be involved plus the government, be involved in the war effort. But one thing the Major League Baseball did is they cut down team travel, made teams play closer together, played longer series closer together. Spring training sites were located as close as they could be to the respective homes. They reduced the schedule from 154 games to 140 games in 1918, and they also brought the salaries down as well. Player salaries were trimmed in 1918. Again, this is due to the war effort, but also coinciding at the same time with the flu, which really had the spike in the spring and one more spike in the fall, as we talked about that as well too. Most Americans weren't too happy about these decisions in general, but the Major League Baseball has a precedent for shrinking things down in a historical fashion. So this year, playing 80 some odd or 100 games would not be the first time that's happened. Again, they've obviously done it during war years as well, but this was done in 1918. Also, the owners were addressing some of the things as far as keeping patriotism at an all-time high. And what they did was the United States government decided there was going to be a draft. And so they first off, all able-bodied men were requested to report to their local office and sign up for the armed services. Number two, baseballers and any essential personnel were considered, or actually, baseballers were considered non-essential personnel. Any non-essential personnel were asked to register and join the Army or the Navy. But baseball got an exemption. We're able to push that back into the fall of 1918, although many baseballers did join over the course of the 1918 season. And by the middle of the 1918 season, for example, the future San Francisco Giants, the New York Giants, who got off to an 18-1 start, their roster was decimated by June because of guys joining the Army, and they became the last place team from first to last. The point is, for all this Wednesday's wisdom, is that it's not uncommon. Even though we're seeing an age where sports changing, this has happened before. We've been through this before in 1918 when the rosters were salaries were shrunk, rosters were changing, expanding. They actually had a taxi squad in 1918. These are things that actually went on before. These are not new ideas you're seeing Major League Baseball put up with. So my point is that the 1918 season very mirroring the 2020 season with what we're going through today, and that's kind of that was my Wednesday's wisdom for today. But let's jump in here. We got comments here. Billy Martin Jr. is taking a couple of Friday Night Glory kids on his internships. Really good to hear that. And a good dude. Yeah, he's been lucky enough to have Billy is the general manager or player development director, really, for the general managers Nate Gutierrez, but the player development director, Billy Martin Jr., the son of Billy Martin Sr., obviously. And Billy is a Texas Tech grad, and Billy and I were in school together back in the day, and always enjoy seeing him. But that is pretty much the show here. I'll give you guys a couple of moments to chime in if there's anything you want to add and any questions or comments as far as updates. The hot stove did have one notable addition today, and that came from our friends in Sioux Falls. Sioux Falls did bring back, they brought back Clint Coulter. They signed him today. He hit 294 last year. So Coulter back with from the Sioux Falls Canaries, a nice piece back. I had hit 294 last year, hit 18 home runs, and he was a good mainstay of that lineup card. And getting him back is a huge plus for the Sioux Falls Canaries. Really, for the most part, it's been a quiet stretch here, and not really for any more than the fact that we're just kind of waiting around. We're all in that same place now. We're all okay. We're here waiting and playing wait and see. Sioux City did sign Andrew Mitchell, a lefty. And I mentioned Clint Coulter signing with the Canaries. And that's pretty much the news of the week as far as, and again, we're all in that mode now where every team pretty much has got their roster set for spring training if and when that happens. So I expect some news probably the next 10 days of sorts of that. We expect it doesn't take a lot of brain cells, at least for my case, because I don't have a lot. But thinking from my mind with the target date of July, and you're getting halfway through May, that it's probably going to be important to perhaps have some kind of word come down about what those dates might be. And I can tell you this, that I've actually emailed my interns and give them an update of what I think might happen, but just a best guess. I can't say one way or the other that it's going to happen that way, but we all have that same positive vibe and hoping that we do play baseball. All right, last call on questions, comments. I hope you guys have enjoyed the show. And again, we will do this again next Wednesday. Regardless of what's going on, we're going to keep doing these shows until one way or the other. How about that? The Steakhouse, as we talk Kansas City T-Bones baseball, American Association baseball, and just baseball in general, with your KBO report, your Wednesday's wisdom, and of course, we will always bring you a guest plenty. I'm not sure where we're at on guest-wise for next week, but we will be working. I'll be working tirelessly on that between now and then. I do owe Denning and Brad an interview together. And I had to check with them first. I'd love to get them on next week that'll be an hour-long show with them alone, so we wouldn't just have them on, but I'll reach out as well. And I also want to get Laura Hoover on from the Gary South Shore Railcats as well at some point. So we got some of those things lined up for you as we go forward here in the month of May. Big thank you to Roy Morales. What a great guy joining us there from Puerto Rico. Big thanks to Tim Costello. You can check his podcast out as I mentioned earlier. And just glad you guys joined us. Big thanks to everybody. We'll be watching us in Kansas City on replay later on in the Metro, perhaps worldwide in Australia, up in Canada, all across God's earth. We're glad you guys joined us and glad that you are a part of the Kansas City T-Bones family. Glad you're part of my family. I'm glad you guys are joining me here talking baseball here on a Wednesday. Yeah, well, bells and whistles and all that good stuff. I will leave you with a couple of items. First off, how about a little Roy Morales highlight as well? Let's do that. I want to hear that again. You guys want to hear that again? I kind of want to hear that again. You guys kind of want to hear that again? I do. I want to hear Roy Morales again. Let's actually bring this down. That's the wrong one. I'm producing the fly here. You want to hear a little Roy Morales play-by-play highlight? Actually, did I close it out or did I? No, I didn't. Give me a second. Talk amongst yourselves. Here we go. Little Roy Morales highlight. How about this?
Here's a ground ball left side, base hit down the line. Toward the corner. Here comes one run. Rounding's another. Into second base. Stand-up double for Roy Morales. 2-0 Kansas City. There's Morales' RBIs 9 and 10. And it took one swing right past the third baseman. And the T-Bones in business in Texas. 2-0. A whole busload and a half. Here's a 2-0. Line to the left field line. Yeah, base hit to the corner. Another Roy Morales double. Bounces around, scoring 2 runs. Morales into second base. And it's 6-1 Kansas City. Morales again. RBIs 11 and 12.
He was in Fuego that night back in June there in Texas, and great stuff. I'd love to hear the fine work of me. Fine work. There you go. Roy Morales, and a great night it was there in Texas. But as we segue out of here, I'm glad you guys are along. And again, you can join me next Wednesday right here, same time, same place. We will talk T-Bones baseball and have more to talk about right here on the Steakhouse. All right, put the open, closed, all that up. Let's put the closed up. First off, the closed sign goes up. There we go. And we get the closed sign, and we'll let the other graphic up, and we'll tell you guys goodbye until next week. Again, thanks for joining me today. Appreciate everybody joining us, Roy and Tim and all you folks taking your time out to join us here on the Steakhouse. See you next week, everybody.